Hello, how y'all doing? Okay, if somebody understands microphones, because I feel like this microphone don't want me to be great. Like I am pretty much, the microphone is pretty much in my mouth, and I still feel like it's not as loud as it could be. But anyway, let's get on to today's episode. Today's question, I'm going to read it. And this is something more like a client wrote to me. So I'm going to read what they said, and then I am going to respond. I haven't read this before, so here we go. It's titled, What's the Point? I can't do this anymore. Every day feels like a repeat of the one before. Emails, content, meetings, clients. I thought leaving corporate was supposed to feel like freedom, but it just feels like I traded one cage for another. I'm so tired of pretending. I care about engagement rates and follower growth. I'm tired of pretending I care about those things. I'm tired of smiling in photos, answering DMs. Listen, child, okay? And trying to come up with captions that sound authentic, that are still on brand. What's the point of all of this? I have the money, I have the house, I have the freedom, but it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like noise, empty noise. The worst part is I don't even know what I want anymore. Do I want to quit, pivot, burn it all down? Sometimes I just want to delete my Instagram and disappear, but then what? Who am I if I'm not in this business? And I chose this because I don't really hear too many people talking about this because it just depends on the circle or the platform you're on. But I can imagine trying to talk about this. And I got a few questions like this, but like trying to talk about this in the wrong crowd can be hard. But the amount of business owners, y'all, the amount of coaches that I've talked to who want to pivot, who keep thinking about pivoting, who have this amazing idea that they're sitting on, but it's so different than the brand that they currently have. Ooh, listen, I could have a whole like tell all book or like tabloid, but make it social media style or something. And so I'm so grateful for this person. And I have been here a time or two or three, all right? And it does get to a point. So when you're first starting out in business, you just want to know that it's going to work. Like you want to know that what you're doing is going to work. And it feels like you're putting in all this effort, all of this time, and it's not working. But if you keep going after a while, what you realize is like, oh, it is working. You find a way, like the cadence in which you need to say a thing or post. You find the words that like connect with your audience the most. You figure out how to explain your offer and program just right to get the people to sign up. And it becomes more based on data and figures. Like it becomes less, you know, what is the word I'm looking for? I feel like in the beginning, it's more, oh, whenever I get the motivation, then I go create content. And when you get more consistent and you start signing consistent clients and it becomes a whole machine, you can't just be spontaneous. That's the word I'm looking for. You just can't be like impulsive or spontaneous anymore. You kind of have to like do things by schedule. In a lot of ways, the business becomes a job. Like I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And after you're willing to pay the price of it being a job because you still probably have like some revenue goals that you want to hit. You want to get to a place where you enjoy your business. But what happens after you have hit those mile markers, those success mile markers, if you will? And what happens when you bought all the things that you pretty much want to buy? Of course, there's always things that you could buy, but like when you think about who you were when you were first starting out, like you did everything that person wanted to do. And the business it starts feeling like you felt when you were in your corporate job. So this person who wrote to me is at that place where they've been in business for about 5 years. Things are consistent. Every time they work with a coach, that coach is like, I could tell you how to scale to get this. And it's like 100K wasn't enough. You need 500K, not get millions in the million. Like they are not interested in it. They are really happy where they are. They are happy at the 300K mark. They're happy with pretty much how their life is. But the thing that they're not happy with is they feel like they lost that version of them, like that spark, that the grind of trying to make it when you first start out in business. Like they miss that version of them. And they just like They don't know what to do. So let me go back to this before I get too far off track. So yeah, so every day just feels like the same, right? So every day feels like a repeat of the one before. I'm so tired of pretending I care about engagement rates and follower growth because y'all, like, it just becomes math equation. I remember when I was just starting out in business, I would be like, I'm not going to be like those people. I'm never going to forget how much I wanted this. I used to say that all the time. I'm never going to forget. Let's take a moment and laugh. You forget. It's not because you're not grateful, right? I'm grateful. It's not that, but it's like once you realize what's really required, once you realize that most of what was standing in your way from getting success. So listen up, for those of you who are at the beginning, what's standing in your way is your own fear, your own self-doubt, you won't allow yourself to trust yourself. That's really what's getting in the way. You think you don't have the right colors, or your website don't look good enough, or you need a membership instead of one-on-one coaching. Like, you think that's what it is. No, what it really comes down to is you need to get out your way and just show up. It's not so much about how you're showing up, but that you're showing up at first. Once you get consistent at showing up, then it becomes, okay, how we add a little razzle-dazzle quality to it. But really, 80% of it is just you showing up and posting the content. You just putting in the reps. No matter how bad you think it is, no matter how shitty you think it is, no matter you made a mistake, oh well. It is really about showing up. If you are really like studying the people who you're comparing yourself to, what you would notice is that they are just showing up. Whether they're tired, they don't feel like it, they feel like they have an off day, they are showing up and they are always on social media. Now, there are some of you who are like, I don't want that to be my life. I don't want my whole life to be around social media. And that's the other misconception that I would say people have, because those people who you see showing up a lot, you know what they do? Most of them, they just set up their camera and they like batch out the 5 or 6 videos they need for that day and they schedule them and they go about their life. Now, if there's somebody, because I'm thinking like, I love studying like influencers. I was just watching, if you know who Emma Chamberlain is, I was watching this like documentary about her, and she was constantly recording her real life because that was her brand. But for most of you, that's not your brand. You're not signing, you're not being an influencer. You're not trying to make your money mostly from brand deals. You're making your money because you have a business that you are offering services or products to people and you want them to invest in that. So you need to stop comparing yourself to the person whose business model is a brand deal and compare yourself to the one who is selling something as similar as you. Okay, let me get off that soapbox and come back to this person. So what do? They're not going to like my answer. I would say that this person who's frustrated and burnt out is the same coin as the new person in business who is like, how do I make this work? It's just a different side. Here's what I mean by that. Yes, every goal that you go after and you stay at it long enough, eventually it will become normal. Eventually it will become boring, because that's how we are wired. We're wired to grow and to adjust to our environment. So yeah, the brain loves for things to feel normal, because if it's predictive and normal, then the brain knows what to expect and it feels safe. When we're constantly chasing after goals and constantly trying to change things, we're throwing our nervous system completely off and it feels dysregulated and it doesn't like it and it's just desperately trying to get back to a baseline. But when you get to this point in business and you are at a baseline, yeah, it's boring. Boring means safety. So if you can reframe it from that way, hopefully that helps. The next thing I would say is you need to go find you something else. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go after a big goal, like a money goal. If that rocks your socks off, you go right ahead and do that. Like, if that's what you want. But really what I'm saying is, what do you want? One of the most challenging questions that we can answer is, what do I want? And in this human experience, what is required of us is to constantly be asking ourselves, what do I want? What am I grateful for? What is it time to release? And what do I want? I am not talking about this endless pursuit of external goals. No, I am saying sitting with yourself, checking in with yourself and asking yourself, am I living the life that I want? Or am I living the life that I think I'm supposed to be living? Am I going after things that I feel like I'm supposed to be going after? Am I doing things that would light up my inner child's world? If 5-year-old me, if 8-year-old me could see me today, would she be like so flabbergasted? That's what I mean. What is it that you want? Are you doing the things that you want? That's number one. Number two, I would ask this person is, how much connection and intimacy do you have in your life currently? Let's take an assessment of the relationships that you have. Do you feel like you could be your full self in those relationships? Do you feel like you could just pick up the phone and talk to those people and not spend the rest of the night like second guessing what you said or going over everything and being like, I shouldn't have said that. I'm so embarrassing. Or is it more like, I said it, we got to deal with it, we laughed, whatever, I'm gonna move on? Do you feel like there are people in your life who get you? They don't see just your accolades. They don't see, oh, you got X amount of followers on Instagram. Like, they don't see like, oh, you have all these clients. Do they see you? Like, they recognize those things, and they do. And they also understand what it took to get those things, that they're not just looking at you like, oh, it must be nice, or with this hint of jealousy. Do they see the real you? Because if it's not about, you're not living the life that you like, if you feel like, yeah, I'm living the life I want, then I'm going to ask you to think about your relationships so you feel safe and comfortable in those relationships. The third thing that I will say is, or ask, is there something else that you know that you want to do? This is, I guess it's kind of the same as the one, but to me it's different. Is there something that you want to do? Is there a different business that you want to pivot to or you want to try? Is there a new way that you want to present yourself to the world, but you feel like you can't? You feel like you're locked in with what your brand is and how people perceive you. If you like come out with this new thing, or if you start talking this way, you feel like you're going to lose it all. Because I'm willing to bet that that's what it is. I'm willing to bet that there is something that you wanted to do originally, but it wasn't working. And then you pivot to the thing that you're doing now. And because it's working, you don't want to burn it down. And you are afraid that if you try this new thing, that's what's going to happen. Listen, I get it. I get it. Dissertation coaching was not my first niche I chose, okay? It wasn't. What I'm doing right now, talking to you, it wasn't about business, but it's life coaching. Like life coaching, how I understood it in 2013. But I couldn't figure out how to make it work like in the way that I would. I didn't want to talk about the fluff, like find your purpose. No, I wanted to be like, girl, you got stuff to heal from. That trauma, let's talk about it. But I was too young in business, number one, too afraid to show up on the internet. And the coaches I was working with did not know how to help me to get there. And so a coach then said, girl, go ahead and switch to this qualitative research thing you're doing. Just let's do that. Let's do that. And it works, and it's still working. But that hunger, like that voice in my brain kept being like, don't forget me, don't forget me. And as a Sagittarius, okay, well, I'm a strong Sagittarius. I'm all fire in my big three. Okay, that means impulsiveness and me have a very intimate relationship. That means I got all the creativity. I got all the ideas. Okay, it's so hard to choose one. I don't think I'm going to say this, but I have very minimal earth placements. What that means is that me and consistency, ooh, we got to work real hard at this thing. Doing something over and over. Like I have a really strong Aries moon. Okay, my job is to start a thing and move on. The moment people try to force me to do something over and over and only do that thing without having something else, that's the quickest way to get me to quit. That's the quickest way. I'm be like, all right, I'm gonna head out. Why was I going down that rabbit hole? Oh, so that voice kept talking to me about, don't forget about the first business. Don't forget about it. And there was a few times that I attempted, like in 2020 and 2021, to like come back to the original business idea. When I look back on it, I'm like, girl, if you would have just gave it enough time, it would have worked. But I was so in my head, and it was so hard to start over and to seem like a beginner, and those feelings of being back in the beginning of you starting a business all over again. Like think back to the very early days of you starting your business and that constant question, is it going to work? Is this going to be the thing that works? When you pivot, you're going to have to go back there. But now you have tasted success. Now you know you have a business, right? I have a dissertation business that is doing amazing. I know what that feels like. So then to voluntarily go back to starting something new, like this podcast, for instance. To start this podcast was terrifying because I had to go back to being a beginner again. But it is the best decision I made because I just show up and I just talk about, like when I first started this, if you go back to those episodes, I'm just talking about whatever's going on in my life. I got the bright idea to do a 30-day challenge. I did an episode a day for 30 days. Like, and it's about everything in my life, but it's mostly about business, but it's like other things in my life. And I was just like, I'm just going to have fun with it. The moment I took the pressure off of it and was like, I'm just going to have fun, was when it started to pick up and people started listening and sending me messages and people started working with me in business coaching. I couldn't figure that out. What was this, 2022? I couldn't figure that out in 2020, but 2022, and now we fast forward to we're about to go into 2025. You're listening to this, it's 2025, so Happy New Year, by the way. But as we're in 2025, now I'm just like, this is so fun. I'm so excited. And I feel so creative. I just show up as me. Like I'm just showing up as me, talking to y'all like we on the FaceTime. And this, like my like baby coach self, me in 2013, 2012, 2011, she's so proud of me because she couldn't imagine in a million years to get here. Was it uncomfortable? Yes. Was it hard? Yes, but it wasn't as hard as that first time of getting that dissertation coaching business off the ground. Nothing will ever be that hard again. And that's what I want to tell you. Nothing is ever going to be as hard as that first time. Now you know what to expect. Now you know how the feels are going to be. Your only problem right now is that you want to start this new thing without going through the feels, but you know the feels are the price to get to the new thing. But the new thing is worth it. The pivot you want to do is worth it because it's more representative of you and why you wanted to do this thing. You just didn't realize, in the same way I didn't realize, that I needed to learn how to do business first, that I didn't need to have two different goals of where I needed to learn how to make a business work and learn how to do a new niche. I needed to pick one. Like I tell Sir all the time, you don't have to pick your struggle because it's going to be a struggle, but pick the one you want to work through right now. And the struggle I wanted to work through was learning business. And I promised myself, girl, when you learn the business, you can come back and do the other thing. And that is what I'm doing. I tell my dissertation clients this as well. They get to a point in the dissertation journey where it just becomes routine. It's just boring and basic. You got to do the same thing over and over. And it's not a matter of if you're going to graduate. It's a matter of when, but the time has to pass. And I tell them, go ahead and start working on your personal brand. So go ahead and start working on a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel. Because on the off chance, which you already know that you want to because you wrote it in your notebook, but on the off chance you get to graduation, you get to your tenure track job, and you realize they want me to do too much. I want to do what I want to do. You've already built the audience that you can then use to say, hey, I have a business. You want to start working with me? And because you've built those relationships with those people and they know and like and trust you, they're going to be ready to sign up and work with you. I tell them to do this because what I notice is that the doc students who get to the point where the dissertation is routine and whatnot, and they don't have anything else to look forward to, they sabotage themselves. In business too, people sabotage themselves because they don't have anything else holding them. I was sabotaging myself in 2020 and 2021. Just over here, just sabotaging myself because I was bored. And so the brain will find a way to entertain itself. If you don't give it something else to work through, it will start to sabotage the things that you've already are doing. So I kept burning my dissertation business down and restarting because I was bored. When I gave myself the permission to go ahead and pivot over here to business, astrology, life, and talk about traumas, because that's how I think about astrology, but that's another podcast. When I allowed myself to pivot over here, I left my dissertation business alone, and I got my creative spark back, and it gave me the if you will, to go and do the things in the dissertation business, get it done, and then I get to play around over here. Because the pressure is off over here. Like, it don't have to work because I have a business that's working. But in me taking the pressure off and me just allowing myself to show up with the skills and the talents and the experience, this business too started to take off. It's not a problem that you have multiple big goals, right? And this is a whole other thing too that I'll say to this person. Be mindful of who you're sharing this with. Be mindful of who you're talking to, because I can see like people are like, you always doing something. That's what they tell me. They be like, you always doing something. You always got something going on. When you gonna sit down? Never. You have known me X amount of years. When have I ever just sat down somewhere? No. I've been bored long enough. I've been waiting on the sidelines long enough. I am going to play full out. And sometimes playing full out is scary because it requires you to evolve into a new identity. So this person who wrote this here, I would just say that's what you want to check in. Number one, what do you want for your life? Are you living the life that you want? Number two, check in with those relationships. Do you feel connected and safe in your relationships? And number three, is there something that you feel like you should be doing, but it just feels emotionally challenging right now? I know from coaching clients, and I've coached people who got some pretty huge, amazing brands. Like, people baby coach me, is like they talk to me, then I can tell you that it comes down to one or multiple of those three things. So I hope that helps you. For those of you who are listening, I hope that helped you as well. I want you to take some time and like really think about those three questions. If you are comfortable, let me know your responses. I would love to keep this conversation going back and forth. That is going to do it for this episode. If you have a question too, let me know. I would love to know a question that I can answer for you. All right. Bye, y'all.